What I'm trying to understand is the way we get to confirming whether a book is true. I want to know about the method. So if we were trying to point out the things that the method we use to reach a true book, we talked about when it was written and who wrote it, and whether it has a creation story, whether it has to be consistent, and it has to give you guidance. I guess my question is, if there was a holy text that had all that as well, does that mean that it is automatically true, or can it also be mistaken if it had all those elements?
I would compare it to the Bible. Another thing I like about the Bible,
Good afternoon. Good. You guys got time for a short interview?
what? I'm sorry?
Do you have time for a short interview?
What is it for?
I have a hobby where I have short talks with people. It's something called Street Epistemology, and
How long will it take?
I time it for about 10 minutes.
You want to go? Come on.
Yeah?
No, we're not going to put no picture.
So what I do is I ask people to pick a belief that they really think is true. It could be anything. It could be spiritual, religious, political, all the above. It could be even science-based. It doesn't matter. What I like to do is ask questions to understand how people arrived at a certain conclusion and the method they used. And then I kind of try to figure out whether that method is reliable or not.
Okay.
Are you guys okay if I record it?
Yeah, you can record it.
Okay. All right. My name is Eddie, by the way.
I'm Eugene Abraham.
Eugene?
Eugene Abraham.
Abraham.
Gene, just call me Gene.
Gene?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Gene Abraham.
All right. So I can give you some ideas of typical topics that people like to talk about, but I really like you to pick it because it makes the conversation more interesting. So if it's something that you're very confident is true, and like for example, if you woke up tomorrow without that particular belief, it might change your actions. So it's significant in some way, and
No, I already know what I believe for something I know I can count on. And
Okay.
I'm a Christian man. I believe in God.
okay, we can talk about that. So if we would put that into like a truth statement, would you be comfortable talking about your belief that the Christian God is real?
Of course.
Can we do that?
Of
Okay.
course.
All right. So I want to get a sense of how confident you are in this belief. So I use a scale from 0 to 100. 0 meaning I have all questions, no confidence, I'm not even sure this is true, all the way to 100%, meaning I have all confidence, absolutely no question that the Christian God is real. I am closed off, or I can't be wrong about this. Like that's what 100% is. So where would you say you fall on that
I
scale?
believe in God 100%.
100%. Okay. All right. What is the main reason that gets you that 100%?
Because I know God is my creator.
That's right.
And He created me in His image. I know that. And I know that from the scriptures that I read. And I put my faith in that because I can go and read it in the Bible. And I know God in the beginning created the world, and then He also created man
Okay.
in His image. So I know that.
So I'm going to repeat back what you said and just let me know if I'm hearing you correctly. I don't want to misinterpret you. You're saying what gives you to that 100% confidence in the belief is that your understanding that He has created you.
That's correct.
And you also mentioned Scripture, so Scripture is mixed into that as well.
That's right.
Okay. Hypothetically, I'm not necessarily saying this is the case, but hypothetically, if you were to find out that that we were not created by the Christian God, would that lower your confidence that he exists?
No, it won't.
I'm not
going to find it anywhere because I know that the Bible is true. Of
That's
all the
right.
books that I've read, and I've read quite a few books,
Yeah.
non-religious.
But this is a hypothetical situation.
Hypothetically, I would still believe what I believe today.
Okay.
It would not
You
change.
can't change that.
It would
So,
not change.
would you say that that's maybe not contributing to your confidence? Knowing that whether you know he's the creator or not wouldn't change your confidence?
It wouldn't change my confidence at all because I believe it until I leave this world that God is my creator.
Okay.
That
So
is something I know.
maybe,
It's not gonna
do you think it's scripture that's contributing to your confidence?
That, yes, more than anything, but I think when you're raised in a Christian family and they bring you up in that belief, it's going to stick with you forever because not that they instilled it in us, they made sure we read the Bible and they would ask us questions and then they would go back over so
okay.
we would fully understand what we were reading.
So, would you say that
You can find
if
that in
you-
Genesis and John.
if you were born in maybe a different family in a different country and you were raised to believe in like a Hindu God, let's say you were raised in India, if you could kind of hypothetically
I
put
can
your mind
understand
there,
what you're saying, yeah.
is it possible that you might be just as confident in a different God if you were raised differently?
If I was raised the way I was raised, my family taught us scripture and the Bible.
If they taught you a different holy text with different gods, so like I think the Hindu holy text is called the
Yeah, they
Bhagavad
got
Gita?
they don't believe they got a different version of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm asking is, if you were raised in a different household and they taught you about a different holy text, is it possible that you might be just as confident in a different God?
Well,
If that
if I
happened.
was raised from a child from birth up to, it could be possible because that's the only thing you know. The only thing
okay.
you're taught.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe would you say that the confidence you have that the Christian God is real is heavily influenced in the way you were raised?
Of course. If you was raised in a family that believed in God and the Bible, and you took you to church and you participated, yeah, you're going to believe that because that's what you read in the Bible. And then as you get older and you can more understand the Bible better for yourself and you read it and study it yourself, then you realize those teachings were right. And that it fully encourages your belief even more.
Okay. So you're saying that it's not just that you're raised with a certain book and whatever book you happen to believe or being raised with is what you believe. It's also that you can look into the book and realize that it's right.
That's right.
Right.
You have to study
Okay.
for yourself.
Yeah.
Show
Yeah.
thyself
Yeah,
approved.
yeah.
How do you go about figuring out which holy text is correct?
Well, I've read different versions of the Bible, and one thing I like about it, and not only that, in Bible study we have on Wednesday night, we looked at different versions of the Bible. But no matter what version, they may have slightly different wording in it, but if you look at it, no matter what version, it's the same.
Okay.
And it's the only book that I've read thus far in my life that doesn't contradict itself.
If there was like, if we were talking to like a Hindu man over here, and he was raised in India, and he went to the Hindu temples, and he has read the Hindu holy text, the Bhagavad Gita,
Yeah.
and he believed that was true and didn't contradict itself.
I've experienced that.
How would we go about figuring out which one of the holy texts is more correct?
I would go by, at first I'd find his source where it originated, go
Okay.
back to the history of his religious Bible that he has, see how it was written, when it was written, look at study the history of it. Like we studied the Bible, we can go back and study. The Bible was originally written in Hebrew and it's written on leather scrolls and stuff. I would look and study the history of his religious Bible, see who it was written by and when it was written,
What
and what sources they used to put those methods in that Bible.
what source leads you would help you realize if something is true or not, and what does the time frame have to do when it comes to whether it's true or not?
Well, you need to
How
go
do
back
those-
to the biblical days, the days from the very beginning in the Old Testament, which we're not under. It's just for our learning. Go back to the biblical days when God first created the world and created his people, and you got to look at the people they created and what he told them to do, and the commandments he gave Moses, who the people was in bondage in Egypt, his people, the Israelites, what I'm talking about. But if you go back and study the beginning, it tells you why, especially the 4 books of the Bible, it tells you why those people were God allowed them to be in after he created. First of all, the Genesis is going to start with God creating the world, and beginning was God, and God was the Word. That's the beginning of Genesis. And then he goes about telling you in the Genesis how he created everything from man to all the way up to the animals, and everything that's on earth God talked about created.
Okay.
How he created.
So
I would go look at that book and see what it has to say about how I was created and where I come from.
okay.
That's what I would
So
ask that from.
what type of scenario would you accept as a indicator that it's true? So who are you looking for, and when are you looking for something
Well,
to be said about its truthfulness?
I would want to know the truthfulness. Were there apostles, like in our Bible, was there apostles? Were God just where did that God, how he was created? Where did it come from? How did they realize the world was created? Their world, in their environment, how it was created. They got to have something in there to tell you, man, they didn't just automatically poof, they're here.
Okay.
So I'd want to know where they come from, what their belief is,
I think I
and
understand
how
what
they
you're
were
saying now.
created, okay? And if they can't show me that, I mean, then I'm going to show them about our Bible, and then we're going to try to cross-reference where they're getting their information from, so we both can understand, because they got their belief, and I'm not going to argue with their belief. You know, all I'm going to do is go by what I read.
Okay, let me ask you a question. So if it's about who is saying what and when it was written and whether or not it explains how we got here, if the Hindu holy text had basically, you know, you wouldn't even call them apostles, but the equivalent of apostles for them, you know, their teachings, and you found out that maybe it was older than the Bible or something like that, and they had a creation story, would that be a good way for them to conclude to 100% confidence that their God is real?
Well, yeah, you can't. I couldn't ever argue with their belief, and they couldn't argue with my belief, because I got my belief and they got theirs. So, I mean, everybody's.
Do you think there's a way to really distinguish between which one is more correct if we satisfy all these
No,
whens and hows?
I've looked at some other. I've looked at the Quran. I've looked at the Jehovah's Witnesses books. I've looked at the Baptists and the Methodists. Pretty much those, except for the Quran, they pretty much believe in the same God. Their book pretty much believe in the same God that I'm believing in. But the Quran believes in they believe in a God like the Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah.
They believe in that, and we don't believe in Muhammad. Muhammad was he wasn't Jesus. He wasn't.
Let me ask you this final question. The timer just went off, so I appreciate you guys' time. So we can wrap it up. Can a holy book have a creation story, have stories about who wrote it, and what God made it, and have a certain age to it? Let's say if it was very, very old, almost as old as the Bible, can it have all those things and still be mistaken?
It's always something could be mistaken there. You gotta realize how many times. What impresses me about the Bible and my belief in it, no matter how many times it was written, and no matter what version it was written in, they still say the same thing. And
Consistency.
It's very
Okay.
consistency. Yeah.
Can a book be consistent and still be false?
Not the Bible.
Not in my belief, not the Bible, but other books can be very consistent and still false.
Why do you think it is that other books can be consistent but still be false, but
Well,
not the Bible?
My belief, and I've studied the Bible, everything that I read in the Bible seems to be true today.
It seems to be?
No, it is true. What
Okay.
I'm saying, it is true today. Everything you need, if anything in life that you want for guidance, sustainment, I can find it in the Bible.
Guidance.
I found
Okay.
no other book that can do that for me. Oh yeah, there are books about specific things, how to improve your
Okay.
marriage and all. But God is the author and the founder of marriage, and He tells you exactly what you're supposed to do as a man. Tells her exactly what to do as a woman
Okay.
about the marriage.
So
And every word of God
It's-
is God.
Yeah.
Every word of the Bible is God.
And if you
breathed.
follow those things, if you do them, if you, yeah, and then I like the Bible. It's like anything else. God don't make you believe in Him. You have a choice where you want to go.
what I'm trying to understand is the way we get to confirming whether a book is true. I want to know about the method. So if we were trying to point out the things that the method we use to reach a true book, we talked about when it was written and who wrote it, and
Yeah.
whether it has a creation
Yeah.
story, whether it has to be consistent, and it has to give you guidance. I guess my question is, if there was a holy text that had all that as well,
Mm-hmm.
does that mean that it is automatically true, or can it also be mistaken if it had all those elements?
I would compare it to the Bible. Another thing I like about the Bible, the history of the Bible, you can go back and follow the history, especially like go to Egypt. The Bible specifically tell you about Moses in Egypt. You can go back to those. You can go to those ancient places now. They're there. Even in Iraq, present-day Iraq, when you talk about the Tigris and Euphrates River, it's in the Bible today, and the Bible talked
Yeah.
about those battles and those specific places back then, way back then, 700
Yeah.
BC, way back then. Those places are still there.
So you're talking about evidence.
Evidence.
Okay.
It's there.
If you were to discover that the evidence of the Bible, I'm not saying this is the case, but I'm saying hypothetically, if you were to discover that the evidence of the Bible in that way was lacking, or there may be more evidence for another book, would that affect your confidence?
No, my
No.
confidence will stay sealed with the Bible. I'm going to stay with the Bible.
Okay. So the evidence isn't contributing to your confidence.
No.
Okay.
I'm going to stick with the word
Yeah.
there.
Okay. Well, we can wrap it up. I just have one last question. You can maybe just think about it. It doesn't seem to, when we go through all what we're looking for to determine whether there's the book is true, before we arrive there, what do we look for? It seems like there's no way that we could confirm if we're comparing two books, because even if another book had all these things, it may still be false. So my question is, if you're using all of these methods to determine that the Bible is true, yet those methods may not work for another book, are you justified in being 100% confident because you use the same
In my
method?
opinion, yes, I am.
Absolutely.
Because I know the Bible is correct when it comes to tell me where I come from, how I got here. I believe that. I don't believe in
But if a book
evolution.
had all those same explanations, that may not indicate that it's true.
I'd have to see the book. I have yet to see it.
If it did, though.
If it did, that may change my mind. It may.
Oh, okay.
But I have yet, and I'm 71 years old. I haven't seen one yet.
Have you looked into it?
No,
I haven't looked into it because I believe in the
because
Bible.
Mm.
look at this
Okay.
different version of it now. I've read your Watchtower and all that stuff, and they don't believe in this and that. And of course, from what I know about the Bible, it contradicts itself, and I'm going to stick with the Bible.
So do you think that the reason why you kind of stick to it is because that's where you were raised?
No, because what I study and know in the book,
That's right.
what I read for myself. You know, a lot of people, you got to realize, you know, I was brought up in the CME Methodist Church, and it took me a long time to realize that there's only one church.
I have one last question. I said that was my last question. I apologize. I'm sorry. You know, how in the scientific method they have this thing called, it's falsifiable, so they have something to look for to determine if what they're hypothesizing is correct, and if that, and they can identify something if they saw that would indicate that they're mistaken. So like an easy example would be like gravity. If you know, we can test gravity, and even though, you know, gravity is always there, we have something that we can identify that if it wasn't working, we would know it. So like if I dropped this pen and or I thought it was going to drop and it hovered, or it went up, or it went down slow, or we have things that we can look for. Even if it doesn't happen, we have those indicators to falsify our understanding of gravity, to know when it's maybe not working. Do you have anything that you could indicate that if it happened, you would know that you're mistaken about this belief?
I would have to see that before I would say I'm mistaken. I know man is a smart thing, and God created man's mind.
Yeah, because I'm not necessarily saying gravity's not working. I'm saying I can identify something if it did stop working.
Yeah. But how do you think man is able to do use science as an example? How do you think man is able to do these things? It's because God allowed him to.
Yeah,
the knowledge that God gives.
He's a smart. God created man's mind as a. It's more, you know, people, the younger generation today, the millennial, believes in they can't live without the.
Are you saying, when you say, how could they do these things? It's because God. Are you saying because we don't have another explanation? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that God allows man to do. How do you think man can develop all these things like the airplane or things like that? Because God created his mind.
Are you saying, when you say how could he do that without God, are you saying we don't have another option of how it could happen? Or what do you know what I'm saying? Like, if it wasn't God, how would you figure it out? What are you looking for to determine if you're false about that?
I've read about the science, about the evolution theory about how we were created. I've read that.
Yeah.
You know,
I guess what I'm asking is, I don't want to compete with other necessarily explanations. What I'm wondering now is the belief you have falsifiable? Would you know if it wasn't the case? Do you have anything you can indicate that if that happened, you would understand that you were actually mistaken? Do you have a feedback loop to understand that?
No, I have no feedback as far as that. I'm gonna live according my life according to the Bible, because I know there is a real God, and I know that God is real, and I'm not gonna change
And
from
there's
that.
only one.
And I haven't seen
It's the
anything
Trinity,
else,
God the Father,
any other
Son,
source
Holy
to show me
Spirit.
that we just popped up on this earth from nowhere. I haven't seen it yet. Oh, I've read the evolutionary theory, and we come from apes and all that stuff. That's a bunch of hypocrisy. I know that. That's not where God created those just like he created us. And I tell people, you have to have your own belief, study for yourself. I don't make anybody go along with what I believe in.
Yeah.
Because you have a right to believe what you want to.
Yeah, I'm not so much about criticizing anybody for what they believe.
No,
I want to know.
Anybody.
I want to know what the best method is to get to true conclusions.
I
If that makes
I
sense.
haven't found
The
the
methodology.
best. I know what you're saying, but I haven't found any best method in my 71 years other than what I study in the Bible, and I see it fulfills itself daily in my life.
No, what I'm saying is not necessarily the Bible. I wouldn't say is a method. I'm saying the conclusion to reach that the Bible is valuable, in a sense that it contains truth. How do we arrive at that conclusion?
I drive it from what I read and study and what I see happening. I've seen things happen. There's no other way that could happen, and results come out except but God be with you.
All right, guys, that was over 10 minutes, so I appreciate your time.
Okay, well, yeah.
All right.
I don't mind talking about what
Thanks,
I
man.
believe in, and I believe, and I don't criticize anybody else's belief.
Yeah.
Because we all got our own different beliefs, and that's what makes us so unique.
Yeah.
You know, you don't, you know, I never get in an argument with about people about the Bible. All I do is take them to the book, verse, and chapter. You can read it for yourself, and you make your own. You make your own conclusion or beliefs in it, whether you believe or not believe. I'm not. You don't. You never argue with people about God's word, because His word speaks for itself.
That's right.
And so I never get upset with anybody that don't believe what I believe.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Anyway, you know, we all, as each individual, I can't even save my wife. According to the Bible, she got to work her own soul salvation out. I got to work mine out. And I need to help her, and she needs to help me by living a good life according to the scriptures. And it fulfilled me already, because I know God has been good to me, and I know it didn't just happen out of. I know that. I know that for a fact. I was in a bad automobile accident, and even amazement to the doctors. They just don't know how I lived. They don't know how come I'm not paraplegic, quad paraplegic from the neck down with the injuries. I almost tore my head off my shoulder.
Yes, he did.
And see,
he said,
I was in a coma for 5 days. Don't know I was in this world on a ventilator. God intervened in all that.
yes, he did. The
And he brought
doctor
me back.
said that.
And
the
my
doctor
doctor
said
even
that.
the doctor said, well, it had to be.
He said,
it had to be your God.
Said
he
it was
said.
nothing
But God.
No, he says nothing but divine intervention.
Well, I believe in
nothing but divine, and we know that.
We know that.
We know
And
that.
you know, I guess that belief is shaped, like I told you earlier, from childhood. And as I got older in my younger years, I swayed away from the books. I care, you know, but if something kept bothering my conscience, it tell me I'm not living my life the way I was raised.
Yeah.
And I felt guilty.
I'm wondering in that situation if a Hindu man had the same accident and recovered the same way, he might attribute that to his God.
Yeah. He might.
Do you think there would be a way to determine if he's correct? Like, could we determine that it was something else other than his God?
I would interpret it as God is created all people, no matter where you live in this world, no matter what you practice for religion,
and everything and all.
But could we determine which concept of God did it?
Well, you know, I'll answer that this way. No, yes, I would say it's the only God, the one and only God, God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
So how did you arrive at that?
But read the Bible. The Bible.
Okay.
Well, you look at the Hindus.
But you
how do you think why do you think they practice their religion? Why do you think that?
He would believe what he wants.
They believe in God now. They do believe.
They believe in many gods.
Many gods.
Yeah,
they got
so
many gods.
Are they even Vishnu, Shiva?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's like hundreds of gods. So,
And
so I guess if the answer is to determine which God intervened, you go back to your holy book. They might do the same for them.
Yeah.
So how do we determine? If we're going back to we'd have no way to determine which.
The only way we could determine that is the only way I could determine, no matter who you have to study their book. You have to study their religion.
He's going to believe what he wants to believe.
Yeah, you had to study his book.
Anybody else that knew, we know.
Yeah.
Well,
so if people are just going to believe the way they were raised and they have their own book and it just really just depends on how they were raised, and we don't really have a method to really dictate which one is more correct. Is anybody justified in being 100% confident?
I don't know that. I just know how I feel being 100% confident in my God.
Yeah.
But you know, another thing that makes me know that my God is different from even those so-called people in the Middle East that worship Allah.
Mm-hmm.
Most people that they call that radical religion. Those people that want, just like the people that bombed the towers in New York back in 9/11. Those Muslim people don't want to they don't want to, if you talk to the Muslim that's right here in East Texas, and I know some of them, they don't believe in that. He said, God, our God, and I'm wondering how can their God and these guys are believing in the same thing. They think they're martyrs if they kill and take lives.
Mm-hmm.
And then you saying you're Muslim, you read the Quran and believe in it. How come your Quran is different from their Quran that says if they kill the enemy, which is people that they consider like us,
Yeah.
they kill them, they die, they go to heaven. They're saying that. And but these Muslims here, and they said, no, we don't believe that. Our God, the God we know, don't justify killing people,
Yeah,
no matter who you are.
It could be a little dangerous when someone is 100% confident and they don't have a way to determine that they're wrong.
I understand that, but the God I'm following preaches love. Everything I know about the God I got, even he believes in love, peace. Don't believe in killing. Don't believe in it.
I would say if to get to 100%, we should probably need a reliable method to determine that. And if anyone can be 100% just because they were raised a certain way,
well,
it's a little scary.
But I believe in having faith in God and trusting Him.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm wrong one day when I leave here, then I'm wrong. But I'm not trying to. I live a life according to God's and Scripture, and if other people don't want to live that life, so be it. It's their choice.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I agree there with just having that
But
freedom.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm gonna believe in God. Now you can say 100% whatever. I'm gonna believe in my God, and that I'm gonna live according to the Scripture, and I'm gonna stick with that method until I leave this world. And,
all right, guys. So I appreciate the talk.
all right, enjoy talking to you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. And who are you with the courts, you said?
No, this is a personal hobby. I'm not with anybody. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're not a student at a college?
No. This is something called. It's something
It's
called.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting to talk to people.
I have. It's a.
But I guarantee you talk to 100 people, everybody gonna have a different opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
It's something
Yeah.
called, what do you think?
Street epistemology.
Oh.
So epistemology is a philosophical term meaning the study of knowledge, how we know something and how we reach conclusions. And so that's what I do. Yeah.
We all different. Our creator's all different. But He created His image. We all got our own beliefs, and you can't change that. That's just your belief, and I guess your beliefs are shaped by the way you were raised, in your environment you were raised in. A lot of people.
Do you think it's virtuous for someone to be open to be changing, to change their?
No.
It's not virtuous.
No.
If someone was raised to believe that if they blew up a building, that they would go to heaven in favor, do you think it'd be virtuous for them to change?
Of course, sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's the thing I know about the God I worship is that He's a God of many chances. He's a God of forgiveness. No matter what you do,
Yeah.
He'll forgive you.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right.